Welcome to the Digitally Dreaming Off the Gridiron podcast. It is a beautiful Friday here in Northern California, and I'm joined with my co-host of the most, number 24, looking fresh and fly as always, out of Chicago, Cortez Branch Jr. Talk to me, baby. What did you think about last night?
Man, last night is a Thursday night crap show as it always is, and I called it. I called it. I said, Thursday night football is never good. Something
Never.
bad always happens, and it's never good. And
Never.
it had some promise for the first like 5 minutes, but after that, nope.
Yep.
Secondly, I know people are gonna chew me out for this. I don't like Thursday night football's commentary team. I don't like any of them. I don't like any of them. I don't like any of them. That's just how it goes.
Well, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, most of the commentary, obviously they definitely. So I do like Sherm because I'm obviously biased, right? I like Sherm, but the rest of them can basically take a hike. But what I was going to say was one thing I noticed. Obviously, Tua was the narrative heading into the game because I was watching First Take and all the other platforms. Kind of talk about the major talking heads, on ESPN, FS1. All of them were saying, okay, like this is a make or break game for Tua, right? Because Tua has not yet beaten the Bills. He's 1-6 against Josh Allen all time. This was the chance for them to kind of, maybe right some of those wrongs of their past, kind of shortcomings, right? And obviously, the game started, it looked a little chippy. We thought it was going to get some, a little bit of a fight. But like to your point, obviously it was very, very underwhelming from the Dolphins side. And I really thought that, the Bills just came into Miami and they basically said, this is our house. We're going to punch you in the mouth. And, obviously, with James Cook with, was it 3 touchdowns, right? 1 receiving, 2 rushing, and how many rushing yards?
Touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean,
he had a 49-yard rush from like one of his biggest ones, that 49-yard touchdown. He just beat everybody.
And that's exactly the point, bro. Like, I was just watching this. I'm like, whoa, like this is, something to really, this is just, obviously like what we just said, like, this was really kind of telling of who the difference between the Bills and the Dolphins, and obviously Miami, I mean, they've struggled against quality teams. I believe Tua, against winning teams and, against quote unquote elite quarterbacks such as Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson last season, he struggled. And I believe the Miami Dolphins, I think they also had like a 1-6 record against winning teams. So, I mean, they really didn't do much to put the narrative to bed. Now Tua obviously went out of the game with a concussion. So, that we're going to see how that shapes out. The reason I'm bringing
up concussion number 5.
Yeah, something. I mean,
that's his fifth concussion, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
I mean, what else can you do but retire?
Right.
What else can you do? Like, you almost have no choice.
Mm-hmm.
I know it sucks to talk about, but what else can you do? That was an ugly sight on the field. He lost control of his motor functions, and then he went limp. Knocked himself clean out. Another concussion. You got to quit, man. You got to stop at that point.
Yeah, what I was going to say was, to that point, obviously, Tua has had this history of injuries last season, season prior, this season. Now, obviously, to your point, I think, at some point you got to really understand, it's obviously your health and your life, off the gridiron. What's the podcast called? Digital Dreaming Off the Gridiron. I mean, obviously I didn't play in the NFL, right? But I mean, injuries sustained, throughout playing, you don't realize it until after you're done playing, like that's where I feel it, I mean, fortunately I feel great, daily, but I still feel, I mean, obviously my knees, my Achilles, right? My calves, obviously, and we're going to talk about CMC's injury in a bit, because I want to get your perspective from running back's perspective. But yeah, I don't know, man. I think Tua, bro, like you got to hang it up or figure out something else to do to keep yourself safer. I don't know what Miami needs to do to keep him safe because, there were some plays in there. He just looked completely lost when the pocket broke down and he couldn't escape, the pressure of the Bills pass rush. Ed Oliver was feasting all night. And I was just sitting there watching this game. I'm like, okay, so we got to play Buffalo. So 2 things which I learned, okay? 1, Buffalo is a dangerous team. Obviously They struggle against the Cardinals, but the Cardinals, my co-host Salman was on Tuesday when we talked about the Niners win, and we'll talk about that in a bit too, because you actually called the spread. My man over here called the spread 13 points.
Yes, I
Y'all,
did.
y'all go check out Monday's episode. Let's 2-4 call that shit down, down the middle. So but we'll get there in a bit. One thing I noticed, obviously, the Miami Dolphins play the Niners, right? Now, the Niners have to go travel to Miami in December, I believe, right? Niners also have to go travel to Buffalo in December. So what my co-host Salman said on Tuesday was that Arizona's a chippy team. I watched the major networks, this morning. That everyone agreed Arizona is a feisty team. With Marvin Harrison Jr. and Kyler Murray, they're actually a sneaky team because of how they can maneuver and how tough they play.
Let's not forget here that Kyler Murray is still a dynamic quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where Niners struggle in terms of, dynamic quarterback, dual threats. You saw how we struggled against Lamar Jackson last year. We obviously do well against the Cardinals, but I feel like they're more improved this year. So Jonathan Gannon has 1 year under his belt. Obviously, they have MHA. So obviously, and divisional games are always tougher, right? Now, what I was going to say was Buffalo, we have to go to Buffalo and play them. So now I'm a little bit more concerned because now that game might be a little bit tougher, more chippier, right? Because you saw how well Buffalo just punched Miami in the mouth.
Home. Buffalo plays well at home too, so you have to watch out for that as well.
You do, and if the Niners have to go there in December in that snow, that's something that we're gonna have to look out for. But what else I took away was Miami can be had. Plain simple. I mean, Miami, obviously, they had a great comeback win. 14 points down at halftime against Jacksonville in Week 1. They had the same deficit and they couldn't do it against Buffalo. You punch them in the mouth. You play physical football. You pretty much have your recipe for success for being the Dolphins. And that's pretty much what I took away. I mean, that hasn't changed since last season. Unfortunately, I was actually rooting for a Miami Dolphins and Niners, Super Bowl matchup, later on in the season. Granted, both teams, do make it that far. Now, obviously, I'm convinced Miami can't make it that far. I'm not even sure how far Miami can make it.
Aside from the running backs, who else played with a sense of urgency last night?
And obviously, I don't want to discount the injuries, right? Because A-Chain, right? And I think a Mostert, right? I mean, you're missing your 2 starters, your Pro Bowl All-Pro running back Mostert, who obviously played for the Niners before he went to Miami. And that's. I mean, they're thin. I mean, obviously now Tua's injured. Reek had the incident, and obviously I don't know if Reek's injured.
He looked injured last night.
Yeah, they look banged up, bro. I mean, the whole team looks banged up, and I think any winning team can go in there, and I really it's going to be difficult.
So before you move on, I got to ask, how long do you think Tua's out if he is coming back?
I mean, what? At least 5-6 weeks. I mean, to be safe.
I'm thinking it's around the 5 to 6 week mark.
I mean, just given his injury history at this point. I mean, I don't. I mean, like
can't bring him back in the standard 2 weeks because you saw what happened last time you brought him back. He was stumbling all over the field.
That's the issue, right? I mean, and Miami's, management and coaching definitely, had to, take the brunt of the blame for that. And so, I mean, right now, I'm not really sold on, Tua, like to your point, Tua's sustainability and his durability. I mean, this league, everyone complains it's softer, but it's a lot faster than the league of the 80s and 90s. And these defensive linemen, they come after these quarterbacks,
you bred the league for speed.
Right.
Yeah, they bred people don't understand this game. I'm so tired of hearing non-athletes talk about, oh, well, the game is harder than it was in the 80s and the 90s. No, it's the exact same difficulty. The problem is they're bred for certain things now. So, for example, a routine play is no longer routine because everybody is so much faster. It's not, we're not talking about, a system of where there's a couple of guys that are better than everybody else. No, this is how everyone trains. In some of the cheapest schools in the United States, they're training like guys like me trained when we were in college. We're talking about from middle school on, these guys are training, legitimate training, not having fun with their friends, learning to play the sport. They're training to be pros. And it's look at Arch Manning, for example. You can't tell me that he did not train to be a pro since he could pick up a football.
He was born and bred, to do it. And I mean, Peyton, they actually asked Peyton about, Arch, not transferring and taking advantage of the transfer portal. And basically Peyton said he was so proud of Arch because, to sit behind Quinn Ewers and, obviously was that number 3 ranked Texas Longhorns team, go Horns, right? I mean, that,
They're actually good, where a lot of other teams that got ranked pretty high are not.
yeah, I mean, that's a testament to his character because, when he did play in week 1 in that garbage time, he actually threw a touchdown, he ran one in. So the
Did he have
kid is,
3? He had
well,
2
I mean,
passing
I
and 1
think,
running.
yeah, I'm not sure if he had 2. I know I saw one passing. I know I saw one when he rushed it in, but obviously character. But to your point, like some of these, either you're built for it or you're not, and you're either groomed for success. It doesn't matter if you're groomed for it. Like Patrick Mahomes is groomed for it. I mean, but he's built for it. You know what I mean? His dad
Yeah,
was a pitcher.
Nebraska's quarterback is groomed for it.
Nebraska's quarterback Dylan Raiola looks just like Mahomes, so it's hilarious. I mean, yeah, yeah. I think Tua, obviously, I mean, at this point in his career, he really has to consider other options. I mean, it's like my line of work contracts. Sometimes they work out, sometimes they
Maybe he
don't.
comes back and he's wearing one of the hats.
Right, something maybe wears a different hat. I mean, it's
They're,
it's
no, they're
what it is.
allowed to. They're allowed to wear those caps now. Those Guardian caps.
Yeah, I mean the
Maybe he comes
Guardian
back
cap.
in a
I mean,
Guardian cap.
right, and it's interesting that he chose not to wear it, but I really would have worn it. I would have considered it if I was him. Obviously with his injury history and everything, that's something that I would definitely, consider, especially from the head coaching and
Well,
GM perspective.
I think this one was more a situation of his neck trying to separate from his shoulders, and that's what
Mm-hmm.
caused the concussion because
I
it
mean,
didn't
very.
look like he
Mhm.
hit his head on anything. I could be wrong.
No, absolutely. I mean, no, I mean, you're right. What I'm saying is, and what I think you're saying, I mean, his history of injuries and his history of concussions and the frailty he's shown.
I would have worn it if I was him.
I mean, honestly, I would have wore a horse collar and the Guardian helmet if that was me. I wore the horse collar and the Guardian
Right.
helmet to
You
protect the head
kind of
and
have
neck.
to do that. I mean, we're guys. It's okay to be injured. It's okay to get hurt. It's okay to take care of your injury and to make sure that you are going to be good. I like a lot of the He-Man stuff is cool too, but there are some things that are just not smart. If you're hurt, you're hurt. If you're injured, you're injured. Tell your coaches, tell the trainers, go to doctors, get some help. There's plenty of things that I got injured on and hurt and or things that I was, banged up on that I didn't talk about because I didn't want to lose time playing. And in the end, I really wish that I would have done so because I would have been able to take care of an injury a whole lot sooner and then come back to 100%. I'm not even sure what I'm going to feel later, to be honest. I'm not sure what I'm going to feel next week or 2 months, 3 months. The longer your career lasts, the more you feel later. And it's cool. I'm glad that I don't get concussions, but I'm going to tell you right now, if I was a guy that did, I'd be wearing something to stop it.
Absolutely. I sustained one concussion, to my semi-pro playing days, and obviously, knee to the back of the head, kind of going out of bounds on a special teams tackle on kickoff return, right? It is what it is. You just kind of have to acknowledge it and accept that you're not superhuman. Like to your point, no one's really He-Man in the sport, and I think. I don't know. I mean, just safety first, man. Like, because there's a life after this, and obviously, what point is it? Being what is he worth $14 million? What point is it having all that money if you can't enjoy it? If you can't live to actually experience life after football. I mean, so yeah, I mean, people on my LinkedIn, people all over are basically bringing that up. I mean, and I agree with the overall point and premise that and to your point as well, that you definitely have to consider protection, no, not protection, but I mean pause, but you have to consider obviously just investing in your own health, as your own wealth. So, anyways,
Yeah, you got to. You have to. Health is wealth. Believe it. Health is wealth. I'm still banged up right now from a different incident that didn't even involve football, and I can't tell you how I want to feel good right now. I don't. But I want to.
yeah, I mean, but that's how it is, right? So, anyway, let's move on. That was pretty much it. The beatdown, Buffalo beatdown in Miami. So obviously Niners to play both teams. Like I said, I think wrap it up. I am excited to play Miami. I'm not excited to play Buffalo, but I'm looking forward to hopefully a big
Yeah.
game for that. Because we're going to transition over to
And you
week
have to
2.
remember, Buffalo still has people out that are going to come back and be good.
I mean, it's
Diggs,
interesting.
watch what happens when Diggs comes back.
Oh no, Diggs on Texans.
Oh, so they lost Diggs. Diggs is gone.
Yeah, they lost Diggs. They lost
Oh,
actually a lot of pieces, and they still beat the shit out of Miami. So, I
oh
mean, 3
man.
touchdowns. Yeah, I
Guy,
mean something.
I mean, guys like Cook stepping up does help.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Cook is. Whew. I mean, Buffalo has won 12 of their last 13 against Miami. I mean, I don't know what else to say. That's it. So
Yeah,
let's move
nothing to
on.
say about that.
Yeah, nothing to say. Well, it speaks for itself. So let's move on now. Obviously, we both predicted the Niners were going to win over the Jets on Monday night. I called it a really close game, field goal, and my man right here called it 13 points, and the final score was 32-19. 13 points, and that is actually what I watched David Barr's podcast. That is the first ever recorded score of 32 to 19 in NFL history, believe it or not. We never had a score of a game 32-19 decided in the NFL before Monday night. So,
Wow.
yeah. Talk to me about what you thought about Jordan Mason. Talk to me about what you think about the Niners. You know, now obviously heading into NFC North territory this weekend, going to Minnesota on a short week.
Well, I'll tell you, if Mason can sustain what he's doing, the Niners just got a whole lot more dangerous
Mm-hmm.
because you solved one problem
Oh,
with
wait!
injuries.
Before you continue, what's his number?
2-4.
Hey, all right, go ahead.
You have to remember that like the Niners' biggest cause was this season, and we talked about this last year, and
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, we talked about this the year before too. If the
Mm-hmm.
Niners can stay healthy, they beat anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, we haven't had a healthy Niners team in either one of the last two playoffs.
Last year's probably the
And
healthy year. Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's because you remember the year Brock Purdy just was standing out there, super injured, just standing out there because they got nobody else.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have any more quarterbacks. That's how bad they were injured. The rest of their quarterbacks were also injured, guys.
Hassan Reddick,
Brock
man.
wasn't being a He-Man. Like
Hassan
they were like,
Reddick,
oh,
bro.
they're like Brock's being He-Man. I was like, no, he's not. They don't have any other quarterbacks. He
If
needs to go out there.
if
Even if
Josh
he's just
John
gonna hand it off.
if Josh Johnson is your starting quarterback, that means you're pretty thin.
Yeah. So knowing that both Debo and C-Mac are very physical but also very injured players, having a guy like Mason also to lighten that load might mean that those guys don't get injured as frequently throughout the season. Because C-Mac usually gets about 2 injuries. You know, every once in a while he'll get a season ending. Debo will have injury here, injury there, but then you'll get a season ender. But it's usually towards the end when you need them the most. If you can spread it out and spread out the touches and they're fine with their numbers not being as high as they were before, you have a legitimate chance to go deep in the playoffs, if not wind up in the Super Bowl again.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think to that point, because now we're going to talk about before we move on, because I mean your points mass off injuries, but I just want to get your take on Jordan Mason's performance specifically, because I wanted to see what you thought. But him stepping in his first start in NFL history, and I think it's the fourth highest rushing total out of any NFL start, and I believe he's in some good company with I believe Hall of Famers, all in front of him on that list. So, what did you think about Jordan Mason's start? Obviously, the zone running scheme with the offensive lineman definitely helped out, played a part. But what was your take on Mason's performance?
I think running wise, he did great. His vision's gonna improve the longer that he plays at this speed, and that goes for not just his run, but also his ability to block the rusher.
Mm-hmm.
And him being willing to step in there. He did a few times. He got a couple of whiffs, but we all do.
Mm-hmm.
The guys on the other side. I really wish people would understand that the defensive guys are just as good, if not better, than us offensive guys.
Yeah.
And that's something that's very missed because like, oh, he missed. Yes, out of 50, he missed out of 50. He missed once out of 50. You shouldn't judge that, or you're supposed to get him. Yeah, if it was 1 out of 5, then maybe there'd be more of a problem. But once out of 50 is not bad. He'll catch up and he'll be able to start stuffing those guys a little bit better. I think his toughness is there. I think his ability to continue the play is there. I think that his knowledge of where he's supposed to be at in space is there. And that just does good for San Francisco. That's great for San Francisco. It also puts pressure on some other guys to continue production when they do get the ball.
And we're going to talk about that guy, number 2-3. So obviously, Christian McCaffrey's out with the Achilles tendonitis. He basically was on record in front of his locker saying that he's ready to go, and he said if your mentality can't be like maybe I'm ready, maybe 99, 100%. And obviously that's kind of the issue of contention because if it is indeed Achilles tendonitis, which does stem from the calf, right? It impacts his ability to move laterally. And you obviously know as better than anyone, right? when you can't move laterally, right, it makes it more difficult for that first cut, and obviously in the zone blocking scheme, that first cut is very critical, especially when you're trying to, not only make people miss, but also,
Yeah.
get some chunk yardage. So
Any
what is,
lateral movement restriction is going to cause you problems.
Mm-hmm.
Any lateral movement restriction, especially a running back. And like, I know that, there's lots of people that understand how football is played, but as a running back, you kind of have to be able to wiggle through the entire pocket.
Right.
You have to be able to do that. The type of runner that C-Mac is, he's not just a boundary to boundary runner. He's a guy that he's going to go up, he's going to go left, he's going to go right again, then he's going to go up again. But he's going to do so with speed and finesse. But that's how you get through a tough line. And especially, let's keep talking about playoff football and playoff implication football. The hard-fought games, especially on primetime, which the 49ers find themselves on a lot, those hard-fought games are fought with your running back being able to get through the line of really tough guys.
Mm-hmm.
He has to be, like, you basically, on every run, you have to make one guy miss. And if you can't move laterally, he's not going to miss because you guys are occupying the same space. That results in a tackle. Whether either you trip over him or he runs into you and tackles you and holds on to you and drags you down. You can't hurdle anybody without having lateral movement because he can't jump.
Yeah. And that's pretty much it. I think, the running, like Bill Walsh says, the run sets up the pass. And that's Niners philosophy. That's been the Niners philosophy since Shanahan took over. Raheem Mostert obviously became an All-Pro at Miami, but before Miami, he was unknown. Matt Breida, obviously journeyman. These guys look like rock stars, in Kyle's zone running game before they got CMC. And obviously with CMC now, and Elijah Mitchell, obviously he was injury prone, but he was obviously, the other guy, kind of pick up the slack. And then now you got Jordan Mason, right? And Jordan Mason is just this young 24, 25-year-old kid. And, he's been in the system for a few years. And now obviously he got his first, opportunity. And you see him look like, a basically world beater filling in for the offensive player of the year. So I really like what I saw, both from Jordan Mason, the offensive line. Like we talked about on Monday, the defense stepped up to the call. Fred Warner, the shirt I wore, had 7 tackles. Leading tackler for the team. Leonard Floyd had a sack. So obviously now let's transition over to week 2 kind of preview. Obviously Niners are on a short week. They're going to Minnesota. They have to play, a morning game. I believe it's at 1. I believe it's at 12 Central. Sam Darnold, obviously, the Giants, or Sam Darnold and the Vikings, they blew out the Giants. They believe it was 28-6 week 1. Obviously, Jordan Addison's out and questionable. I believe maybe he's out or questionable for week 2's matchup. Last year when they played the Niners, the Minnesota Vikings, basically Jordan Addison presented a bunch of problems. My co-host Salman basically said, obviously that, let JJ Justin Jefferson get his. And then essentially, basically, beat them down. Their defense of Minnesota is not that great. In my opinion, the pass rush is actually pretty good. But our offensive line, if they keep up that level of play, then there shouldn't be an issue. What are you looking forward to in this week 2 matchup between Minnesota and Niners? And what do you think are the keys to win?
I think that Sam Bradford's the quarterback in Minnesota, right?
No, Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold, my bad. Oh, so many Sams. But so Sam Darnold needs to have a statement if he's gonna maintain his status as the quarterback right now for Minnesota. Obviously McCarthy is out, but if you don't want to be a 1-year quarterback, you definitely need to make a statement against a team like the 49ers. Do I think that's going to happen? Absolutely not. I do think that the 49ers are going to go. Are they on the road or are they home?
They're on the road. They're going to Minnesota.
Yeah, so that's the best place to play football at, the best stadium so far in the world. And I think that they're going to feed off that energy inside of there. And Minnesota is going to lose. And I think that Minnesota is going to lose big. And I think that it's going to be, especially if the guys are all there, if everybody's healthy and everybody's playing, I think Minnesota loses by maybe 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a reasonable take.
I don't see San Francisco scoring less than 30 points. I don't see Minnesota scoring more than 17, to be honest.
Yeah. No, what I was gonna say was if the defense plays as they did, week 1, force Sam Darnold to become uncomfortable, get pressures, like they did, definitely, force turnovers, right, in the secondary. I want to also say one of the things that I think is a key to victory. Obviously, Jake Moody was a 6 for 6 night on Monday, tied the franchise record. I also think that, one of the most important things is that, they have to make sure that the Niners basically, continue this momentum, and I really want to see Kyle Shanahan take more chances in the red zone.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's more comfortable with his team right now. I think that they
Yeah.
showed him that they're ready to because the first game is usually soft. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And you don't try everything that you got in your playbook. You just go out there with basically the first practice script that you guys put together, and you try to work through that. And see how much you got. Very few teams come out firing on all cylinders right away. Very few teams do, with the exception of teams that have been together for a very long time. I mean, let's face it, Kansas City's been together for a long time now. They can come out firing on all cylinders because, I mean, it's the same thing they've been doing. New England was the same way during the Brady years. Philadelphia during a lot of the same runs with Donovan McNabb and those guys, all the way down to Foles. And, those guys are doing the same thing. And now even with Hurts, they're trying to do the same things. That's a lot easier than, hey, we got some new pieces. I think that San Francisco's like, hey, we're seasoned now. We're ready to go. Go ahead, let's go. We're used to being around each other. We got some good pieces that filled in some spots where we were good at, but maybe not great at. And I think they just run all over Minnesota, man. To be honest, I think it's going to be a mostly on the ground day, or a short pass day. I think that every once in a while Purdy will let one go to Ayuk. And then he's got a good supporting cast. It's not just those 5 or 6 guys either. We're talking about the most potent offense in football.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. I think that's really going to be the keys to win. So I guess let's do some final score predictions. I'm going to go 49ers 32-12 over Minnesota. Going 3 touchdowns, and that's my margin of victory.
I think I'm going to do 35-17 San Francisco.
There we go. I like that. All right, I don't see any other week 2 matchups. Anyone else you want to talk about heading into week 2?
I mean, we got to talk about the number 1 draft pick.
Let's talk about it.
Do you think his numbers improved this time?
Who are they playing? I'm sorry.
I'll get you the whole schedule. We'll do a quick rundown.
Okay.
So we got week 2. We'll start with them. We'll do Bears at Texans at 7:20 p.m. on Sunday Night Football.
I think I missed it. Sorry. Repeat that again for me.
Week 2.
Mm-hmm.
We'll start with the number 1 draft pick. It's Bears at Texans on Sunday Night Football.
Mm-hmm.
ESPN and others believe that the Bears are the underdogs in this.
ESPN and so Bears at Titans, you said, or Bears at where? Texans. Texans. Oh yeah, no, I'm sorry. You guys are the underdogs. D'Amico Ryans, that defense. I mean, I was talking to Echoes about it. I mean, that's gonna be a good one. I mean, and the Texans look really rusty in that week 1 matchup. I think CJ Stroud is gonna have a really good game. So
spread 6.5.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably go with that. I mean, Stephon Diggs, who you alluded to earlier, is on the Houston Texans now, and I mean, they're only going to get better. Nico Collins obviously is what he is. Will Anderson Jr. on that defensive front, he's going to harass Caleb Wood. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, I really don't think the Bears will come out with an upset.
The Bears' offensive line looked terrible last week.
Yeah, I mean and the Houston Texans are actually, my boys' pick for actually winning the AFC this year over KC, and rightfully so. I mean, they already made the playoffs last year, won the division title. They won a playoff game. I mean, they should definitely take that next leap. If not winning the AFC, they should at least make it out of the divisional round, in my opinion. So yeah, I definitely think the Texans are going to win this game. I think Caleb's going to have a rough night. I definitely don't see any improvement heading into week 2.
So, guys, as you were well aware of on this show, we only predict interesting games. We're going to go with another interesting one this week. We're going to go Saints at Cowboys.
Oh, yeah, that's an interesting one for sure. Both teams had blowout wins. Both teams, I believe, put up over 30 points in their first week 1 matchup. And the Cowboys did against actually pretty good Cleveland Browns team. Saints at Dallas. I'm going to go with Dallas, but I think it might end up being an actual interesting game with Derek Carr and Dak Prescott. I could probably see it being a 1-possession game, maybe 32-28, something like that.
And Zeke's had some type of revival.
Yeah, Zeke looked great in week one. I mean, he looked so crisp, his cuts in and out. I mean, they use them. They use him well. I mean, he looks like he drank from the fountain of youth or something. So,
He looks
I
like
mean,
he
quicker
drank
from
from the
20.
he looks like he drank from the fountain of youth.
Yeah,
He
21 to
possibly
15. Yeah,
he possibly
maybe.
did.
I was gonna say maybe switching from 21 to 15 basically got those 6 years back because he from those numbers.
Exactly. So I'm going to say that game's going to be a shootout. It's going to be a lot of offense. I'm going to say the numbers start to get a little bit crazy. Let's do 27-33 New Orleans.
All righty, Saints with the upset. I like it.
And there's only one more significant game, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And, because Chiefs Bengals is not significant.
No, Joe
Steelers
Burrow looked
Broncos is
terrible.
not significant. Colts
No,
Packers not significant. Giants Commanders not significant. Seahawks Patriots not significant. Chargers Panthers not significant. I'm thinking that the only other game that's actually significant in the early part of this season is Falcons Eagles.
I agree. Because Falcons are looking to bounce back. Eagles are coming off a week one win, a very, very, very close game against Green Bay. Green Bay should have won that game, like I said to you on Monday. And I still feel that today. And I don't feel Philadelphia is that good on their secondary, but they're at home. So I mean, Atlanta can make it interesting. Maybe they're looking to bounce back. Obviously Kirk Cousins, like he has Kyle Pitts, he has Bijan Robinson, he has Drake London at his disposal. They should bounce back, even though they're on the road. I would expect to see at least, even if they don't come out with a win, I want to see more from Kirk. I mean, this guy what
Can they
100?
afford to not come out with a win? Can they afford to go down 0-2 on Monday Night Football?
No, they can't, especially with New Orleans and Tampa Bay playing the level that they are. I mean, that division is actually much more competitive. And like we talked about, like you brought up on Monday, when Baker Mayfield is what putting up 37 burgers on against the 20-point teams, and yeah, there we go. I see you, baby. Okay, yeah, rep it, baby. I mean, Tampa Bay, obviously the NFC South division champion heading from last season. You got Baker Mayfield, $100 million quarterback, actually showing that he's worth that money. Derek Carr looking great as well. I mean, obviously it was against the Panthers, but we'll see, if he's able to, do what you said. I mean,
Exactly.
going off your predictions, if let's say Tampa Bay wins, let's say New Orleans wins, if Atlanta goes down 0-2, you expect me to believe that 36-year-old Kirk Cousins can rally this team back and win the division or somehow make a wildcard spot? Hell no.
Nope. And they got a backup that people might want to see.
Oh yeah. Who's the backup?
They drafted
Michael Penix Jr.
They drafted Penix Jr.
That
Yeah.
was smart. That was smart, actually. Michael Penix could actually sit behind a little bit, watch a little bit, from a veteran, and obviously, prove his worth. I mean, it's a little bit different than Justin Fields because Justin Fields has had his reps in this league for a while. But Michael Penix Jr. obviously coming in fresh. I mean, this is great for him and his development. So I mean, I'm hoping that he's watching and learning and he's willing to take the next step. And I'm rooting for the kid. If he does get an opportunity this season. So yeah, I really don't think if Atlanta loses the game, I mean, I'm writing them off of the division. I mean, I don't see. I mean, it's too early in the season to say, right? A lot of things can happen, injuries, everything. But in that division, with New Orleans and Tampa Bay, it's going to be really hard for them to come back 0-2 to come back and make a run. So
yeah, I think that's going to be hard if they go down 0-2 on Monday Night Football against the Eagles because at that point they're going to say, "Can you beat anybody?"
yeah.
And if the Eagles are the bar, because I hate to say it, but like to Eagles fans, but your team is knocking. Your team isn't in the room. And I hate to say it, but like Dallas is in the room. Your team's not in the room, Eagles. You gotta be. Your team's not in the room. You guys did not look that crisp last week, even though you won. You had a lot of personnel issues. You had a bunch of players retire and leave and go to different teams. I just want to see, like, we know that Jalen Hurts is one of the toughest quarterbacks in the league. That's no doubt about it. We know he's one of the strongest quarterbacks in the league. There's no doubt about it. But in my opinion, like right now, there's no difference between Jalen Hurts and Justin Fields.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah, I think they're the same player right now, and I really think that they both need. Pittsburgh needs to win this game. We're not gonna talk about it because there's no point. But Pittsburgh needs to win the game and should. And I think that the Eagles need to blow out Atlanta on Monday Night Football and pretty much tell Kirk Cousins to go home with his family. And I'm not a Kirk Cousins fan. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying that if they do this and they blow them out on Monday Night Football in front of their crowd, I think that Atlanta's going to have to rethink how they put together football teams, and they're going to have to do it fast.
100%. 100%. No, I think that, well, I mean, if they go down 0-2, then, it starts the discussion of what you just brought up, the backup, right? When are you going to let the kid get a start, get his first start in the NFL? So highly drafted prospect as well. And,
First round, first
yeah,
round draft
exactly.
pick.
Exactly. I mean, and we're seeing a lot of these this year's draft quarterbacks, start immediately. Obviously Drake May would have started if Jacoby Brissett wasn't there, and now he might actually start depending on Jacoby Brissett's injury against Seattle. What's his name? The guy in Bo Nix, right? Bo Nix actually played against Seattle last week. He started for Denver. Caleb, obviously, he's playing, right? Am I missing anyone? I'm trying to remember who else came out of the first round. Yeah, I mean, a lot of rookies are getting their reps this year.
Yeah, they're getting their reps. They're getting their reps, and they're going to play it. Like McCarthy'd probably be playing if he wasn't injured. To be
McCarthy,
honest,
I forgot. Yeah, I mean,
he was
McCarthy's out
supposed
with
to sit
injury.
behind. He was supposed to sit behind him anyway. He was supposed to sit behind him anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, at least he did get starting snaps, right? When the season opener, he was able to get in the field. So yeah, almost every quarterback drafted in the first round is starting, and so Michael Penix Jr. is basically the black sheep until they call his number. And
Jaden Daniels is starting in Washington.
Right. And Raheem Morris, right? I think that's his philosophy right now. He's just Jane Daniels. Forgot Jane Daniels. Thank you for that. Yeah. So every quarterback from round one starting. Raheem Morris's scheme and philosophy is probably, let sit a little bit, watch and learn, and that's the best way. Repetition, imitation is your best flattery. And so I mean, hopefully his imitation is much better than what we saw from Kirk in week one. Depending on how Kirk plays in week two, he can imitate that if it's better. But anyways, I mean, I do think that eventually he will start this year. I think that's the plan. So, anyways, Atlanta is basically in a rebuild year. New head coach, new quarterback, brand new draft prospect. So I'm not expecting much for the Falcons this season. I mean, I think that they'll be happy just finishing if they could finish above 500. Or I guess even sub 500. I mean, not that much below 500. I think like an 8-9 or 7-10 is still a pretty good season to build upon. So, that's pretty much my prediction for the Falcons. And, I do think Tampa Bay is still the champion of that division. Until proven otherwise, we'll see how they do against St. New Orleans. We'll see how New Orleans actually does against Tampa Bay, and we'll see how that shapes out. So I'm excited to see that. So, yeah, I mean, that will be an interesting game just to see how Kirk Cousins does. I mean, when he was in Minnesota, he did actually have some really good games against Philly. He played well against Philly. So yeah, I'm excited to see how that shapes out. So
yeah, man, that's the way I think about it.
Alrighty, so I think that's going to wrap up our week. Yeah, it's going to wrap up our week 2 takes and picks. So, anything else before we close out today's episode? My brother Cortez Branch Jr.
I mean, not really. Other than I hope the best for Tua and some of the other guys that got injured this week. And, I hope that you guys are all able to return to do what you love, but be smart about it. If it's bad for your health, don't do it. And what I mean by bad for your health, I mean, like, if they tell you if you get another concussion, you might become a vegetable. Don't do it anymore, man. It's not worth it. You got money, become an activist or something. I'm sure the NFL can find a way to get you involved. You speak well, go on television, get a television career going. There's no shame in that. Like, you gave it your all. I know you wanted to win a Super Bowl and other things like that, but if you give it your all in anything, you have to be proud that you gave it everything you had. I don't look at it as somebody else having more than you. I just look at it as, hey, it's not everything is for everybody all the time. I think about what ifs.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think about what ifs all the time. We can always think about what ifs, but you don't let them get you down. And you say to yourself, despite whatever happened that I wanted to happen that did not happen, I'm going to find a way to move forward and be proud of whatever I do next.
I really appreciate you bringing up that point because that's a great way to end the work week for anyone who's watching. Obviously, people are struggling right now with the economy, and we had a presidential debate. Everyone's talking about that. I'm not going to get political. I mean, I don't really care what side of the spectrum you reside on, but obviously for me, my current line of work and many others, I'm sure, I mean, we've had so many, pitfalls, right? And I've been seeing that, my professional network too, about people, having difficulty and frustrations, with the market and trying, find their next opportunity. And obviously opportunities ending, because of circumstances out of your control. But, what you can hang your head on is that you've done your best, you've done your part. And as long as you've done your best and you put your maximum effort into, whatever it is you've tried to accomplish, you can hang your head on that, not just for the immediate future, but for the rest of your life.
Right.
For me, I take it from the perspective of, whether it was playing semi-pro, whether it was starting this podcast almost 4 years ago, whether it was whatever challenge I wanted to undertake, I think, I definitely have taken pride in being able to do everything that I've set my mind to. Some things, certain chapters come to an end. It's unfortunate when it does, out of your control, like you said about what ifs, right? But essentially, I do think that that's something that we can all take away, especially in our line of work and with times being as difficult as they are. We can definitely take pride in everything that we've been able to put our best foot forward for. So Tua, obviously, get well soon. Hopefully, you can figure out whatever it is that you want to do. If it is football, please stay safe. If it is, obviously, whenever, you do make that call, hopefully it's sooner than later, is that with your own health, because I worry just for his health. And so.
Yeah, me too, man. I hope that he's okay.
100%.
I really do.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, sorry, didn't mean to go on tangent about the podcast, but I'm very happy and very thankful for this platform. Thankful for the opportunities as well outside of here, or that have come a result of this, or external of this. So, just today's Friday for gratitude.
Yes, it is.
And that's it, brother. Any last thoughts before we end it? Because I think that's a pretty significant way to go.
That was all for me.
Yes, sir. All right, y'all. Thank you all for tuning in. When we're back, we'll recap week 2, preview week 3, and talk about WWE when SmackDown is wrapped up tonight. Thank you all for tuning in.
Last SmackDown on Fox, right? Last one.
Yes, sir. Is it the last one? Yes, it is. The last SmackDown on Fox.
Oh, wait, no, it's the first one on USA.
Oh, that's right. The new season starts on USA today. So yeah, I'm looking forward. Yeah.
Something's gonna happen crazy tonight.
Something crazy is gonna happen. Something's happening, bro. Something's happening.
You'll have to let me know, because I'll be at both of my high schools football games today, hence the flag.
Hey, Joliet Buccaneers, baby. I see you.
So we're gonna be out there. We're gonna be out there watching Bolingbrook versus Romeoville. It's gonna be great.
All right, man. No, I definitely enjoy. Best luck to Joliet and Romeoville. Sorry, Romeoville, right?
Bolingbrook versus Romeoville. Yeah, Bolingbrook versus Romeoville.
Wait, which one did you go to? I just want to make sure. You went to both. Which one was the one you graduated from?
So I graduated from Bolingbrook. So a quick story that people might want to hear. Some of us that know us. Bolingbrook. I was living in Bolingbrook. With my family, and I thought I was gonna just go to Bolingbrook High School. So Bolingbrook built a new high school while I was in middle school, and while I was in freshman and sophomore year, they sent us to the other school in the district, which happened to be in Romeoville. And so Romeoville had half of Bolingbrook's talent and or student corps before the new school was built. So when the new school was built, they recalled all of us. They gave us the option to stay at the upperclassmen and said, if you want to stay at Romeoville, you can. It's just that we're not going to offer you the same services that we used to. Like, you have to get there on your own type thing. And I was like, I'm going to go to Bolingbrook, because at the time I didn't have a car. I was a sophomore. So I'm going to go to Bolingbrook, and I'm going to go to the new school and the new facilities and get all the new stuff. I was smart about that. And let me tell you, it worked out a lot. No offense to Romeoville, but Bolingbrook was the move for me, and it was closer to my house and everything else in my life. And I got all those new facilities, and it was great. Bolingbrook, yeah. Whoever wins tonight. Two of my former proteges that I coached are starting. They're as a quarterback and running back, and I hope they do great against Bolingbrook, because Bolingbrook has historically been a much better program than Romeoville. We're going to see what happens tonight in the old crosstown rivalry. So they haven't played in a couple of years. They get to play this year, and I think it's going to be fun to watch. New coaches. Yes, Bolingbrook's head coach retired last year. So they got new coaches on both sides, and we're going to see what happens with this.
100%. It's going to be exciting.
I see definitely. 2 new programs.
2 new programs, baby. Oh man, I'm excited to see, hear the outcome. We get back on here next week.
I'll talk about it. Yeah, even if I got to go by myself, because nobody wants to go to a high school game anymore. I just like watching football, man. I watch football at all levels. I watch the 4-year-olds play all the way to, the guys that are in the retirement home and like 3A semi-pro,
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say, man, like what do you call it? West Valley, where I got to play, they basically, the program folded a few years after I left. I would love San Jose City. My head coach from West Valley, and I was coach at San Jose City College. So, I've yet to go there. It's a little bit far from where I am now because I'm more deeper in Northern California now, as opposed to being like directly in the Bay
Yeah.
Area. But I would definitely like you said, I mean, because we do have JUCOs here, we do have high schools here. I used to coach at Whitney and Rockland, so I would love to maybe one of these days go see go see how the boys are doing.
Yeah, and I coach those boys. I want to see them play. It's not just a high school rivalry, but I coach those boys. I want to see what they turn into.
100%, 100%. So, all right, then, y'all. Thank you all for tuning in. Good luck tonight, brother. Enjoy, and thank you all for tuning in once again. Follow us at DDOG Podcast on Twitter. Follow us on follow my boy on Instagram. Follow us obviously YouTube, Spotify, podcasts, and Google Podcasts, and spread the word. Subscribe. Obviously anyone who is struggling right now, right, whatever it is, opportunities come and go, and I think we're heading in the right direction, and just keep your head up. So thank you for tuning in. Take care, and God bless.
Yes.